Welcome to Beyond the Game, Wealth Mastery for Athletes. I'm Kris Benson, private equity real estate investor, and I'm joined by 9-year NFL vet Alec Ogletree. Beyond the Game is a podcast where we will provide a playbook for financial growth both on and off the field. Join us each week as we'll have in-depth conversations with other pro athletes as they walk us through how they've created wealth beyond the game, both on and off the field. They're going to share their triumphs, lessons learned, and setbacks along the way so that you don't make the same mistakes. Join us. I think you're going to have a lot of fun. Welcome to Beyond the Game. Today we have the closer, Matt Capps, 7-year MLB vet. He has an incredible story. The thing that really stood out to me in this interview was Matt did so many things where he just moved forward without knowing what it was, basically what he was doing or what the outcome was going to be. There's a lot of great nuggets in here for you to understand that you don't need to know everything to just move the ball forward. And so his story is a good one. I think you're going to enjoy it. Matt, welcome to Beyond the Game. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Alec,
here.
Pleasure to see you.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
Alec does not have any tennis trophies this time.
No,
he
not
can only
yet.
bring one trophy at a time.
Yes.
He's got his cornhole trophy that he's just not going to show people today, which is fine.
They'll get a glimpse of it. They'll get a glimpse of it.
Those listeners who are not on YouTube, go back and watch the YouTube video. It was a barn burner. Barn burner cornhole game.
Great match.
It was a good match, but Alec Ogletree, he came out on top.
Or prevailed.
I need a rematch.
That's true.
We'll get another one.
Yeah,
That's true.
Well, Matt, I appreciate you taking the time. Let's start with a little bit of your story. You're a local kid, Douglasville guy. You're like every baseball kid's dream, right? Small towns.
Georgia legends.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah. West side of Atlanta. I grew up in Douglasville, Georgia, when Douglasville was a small town. It's not so much of a small town anymore. But when I was a kid, I tell the story. I could go left out of my neighborhood and walk about 1.5 miles, and it was all cow pasture. So I saw kind of the transition of Douglasville, Georgia. But from the time I could even formulate a sentence or remember a memory, all I ever wanted to do with my life was play baseball. I was fortunate enough to get the opportunity out of high school to get drafted and go play.
Where'd that come from? Was that family, dad, brothers?
No, so it's actually, that's a great story. My dad didn't want me to play. My dad was a basketball player growing up and had opportunities to play in college, and unfortunately had some health issues at a young age where he couldn't go play. But Dad wanted me to play basketball and knew nothing about baseball. So I'd play in the neighborhood. And in my neighborhood, I had a younger brother, but I was the youngest of kind of our group. Everybody, all the other boys in our neighborhood were a year or two older than me. So I'd go out and play with all the older kids, and didn't realize it at the time, but I was as good or better than a lot of them. And one of my neighbor's dads finally talked my dad into letting me try out, said, "Look, I'll take him, I'll drive him. You don't even have to go, but Matt needs to play." So I remember it. I was in the backseat of my dad's car, Buick Skylark, candy red Buick Skylark. And Dad said, "You know what? I'm going to sign you up for baseball." And I remember just being elated about it. So excited. 8 years old.
Were you a Braves fan at the time? Were you watching on TV?
Huge Braves fan.
So you were soaking it in. You just weren't playing yet.
Right. And one of my earliest childhood memories was the 1990 World Series, the A's and Reds. And I had kind of a friendly wager with my dad as to who would win. And I was like, "Oh, Oakland's going to win." Knew nothing about him.
Wait, that was the Earthquake series, wasn't it?
No, that was, I don't remember. That was before 90. But anyway, Cincinnati took it. And I believe, if memory serves me, it was a 4-game sweep. I was 7 years old, so I could be wrong on some of that. But I remember in the basement watching, and it was cool because my parents let me stay up late, and school age. And like, "Oh, it's 11 o'clock at night."
Yeah.
Matt's still in the basement watching Major League Baseball with his dad. So I started playing at 8 years old. My dad was kind of an assistant coach and started learning the game. I remember him reading the rule book down in the basement on his couch. He'd read the rule book, try to understand and get to know it. He, like I said, he didn't want me to play. And later in life, he told me it's because of the politics of Little League Baseball.
Okay.
Still exists.
Yeah. Well,
every youth sport in the history of the world.
It still exists. It's
so at 9, I played at 8 at Bill Art and made the 11, 12-year-old all-star team as an 8-year-old.
First year in.
First year playing organized baseball. At 9, we moved to Hunter Park, and my dad was the president of the board.
Yeah.
So he resisted because he didn't want to deal with the Little League politics, and then he took him over. But played at 9, 10, all the way until I got into high school at Hunter Park in Douglasville. And we had a good group of kids around us. We had some really good teams. At 9, we went to the Mustang League World Series in Dallas, Texas.
Is that like Little League World Series now?
Kind of, yeah. So like there's different divisions. You've got Pony Baseball. Now you've got Cal Ripken Baseball, and you've got Little League, and they're like different divisions. There's a little bit of difference in the rules, bases and pitching mound distances and stuff like that.
So they got different. I only know about the Pony. I didn't know about Cal. You said Cal Ripken?
So Cal Ripken now has his own league, and it's kind of like a travel program.
Okay.
Travel, like tournaments that you can sign up for and play and stuff like that.
Okay.
Babe Ruth League, stuff like that. So in Little League, I believe it ends at 12.
Yeah, I think you're
and
right.
then Pony goes all the way up through 18.
Okay.
So I went to Hunter Park, and they had adopted Pony. So it was broken up into two-year age groups. 9 and 10 was Mustang. 11 and 12 was Bronco. 13, 14 was Pony. And I can't remember what 15, 16, 17, 18 was tagged. But played there till I started in high school, and then played in high school. I started.
Is Douglasville baseball like a baseball school? Or do they have big athletes coming out of that school? I mean, was it historically?
No. So I went to Alexander High School.
Okay.
There was one guy that had been drafted, not out of high school, but he went to Campbell and played, and then was drafted out of Campbell. His name was Reggie Davis. He was a catcher. Unfortunately, we lost Reggie last summer. But Terry Harper, remember Terry Harper? Terry Harper went to Douglas County High School. So he was from my town, and way back in the 50s, Taylor Phillips was a left-handed pitcher from Douglasville.
Okay.
So there's been a handful of guys come through that have made it in the big leagues since. While I was in the big leagues, Brett Campbell was a Douglas County graduate, and then he went to Georgia and played, and transferred to Kennesaw State. He was drafted by Washington and made it to the big leagues with Washington for a little while.
Okay.
Now he's a scout for the Mets.
Kris, you can come to Georgia and find any type of sports you want to play and find an athlete.
Fair.
Yeah, I mean, our weather kind of lends itself to baseball being a dominant sport around here.
You're going to find a dominant person.
Yeah.
I promise.
No doubt. There's a lot of athletes here.
There are, and the population around metropolitan Atlanta. But my parents had a rule with my brother and me in high school. You either had to actively be playing a sport, or you had to go get a job.
Yeah.
So
Same.
my brother went to work, and I lettered in 4 sports. I played everything I could. I loved everything that I did do, but my passion was baseball. But during football season, football was the greatest thing ever. During basketball season, basketball was the greatest thing ever.
Yep.
The only thing I did and lettered in that I didn't love was cross country. If you're not watching on YouTube, and you guys can attest to this for those people, my body's not built to be a cross country runner. I'm not set up to run distances. So
Not now, but back then you could.
back then, no.
Back then you could do it.
No.
What were you doing
I
back
did
then?
it. It's a 5K, so it's 3.2 miles. I think the best I ever did it in was like 24 minutes.
It's a little slow.
I know. Yeah.
Were you doing it just to stay in shape for the other 4 sports?
And so I didn't have to go get a job.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's why I ran track. I ran track too.
Yeah. It's like, no, I'm running cross country. But I did. I mean, I was a little pudgy coming out of 8th grade, and my whole life I've been husky. I joke, I was a junior in high school before I knew husky wasn't a brand. But,
They call you Big Bone.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah, Big Bone. That's it.
So I ran, and the guy that was a cross country coach was actually a high school and college runner. Lived across the street from me when I was like 3, 4 years old. His name is Brian Robinson. Brian actually used to throw to me all the time when I was a little kid. Dad was off working, and Brian was across the street. I'd go knock on the door, and he'd throw to me all day. So Brian's awesome. And then he took over the track program at Alexander, and that carried into cross country. So
did you pitch all through high school? Well, I know high school you probably did. Middle school as well, or were you kind of moving around the field?
So I didn't.
Oh, okay.
I threw, but I didn't really start pitching until my senior year of high school. So as a freshman, I was our starting catcher on the varsity high school team, and I caught all the way through high school. I came in my senior year. I would say I was probably our 3rd best pitcher, or I shouldn't say 3rd best, but 3rd most used pitcher. We had a couple of guys. We had a lefty, Case and Britt, that was pretty good that ended up going and playing in college. David Smitelli was pretty good. And back then, it's a little different than it is now. Like, guys specialize so much now. You probably see that
same football
as well.
Yeah.
We played everything. But I would catch, and then I would come in and throw hard the last 2 innings.
Yeah.
I made Team Georgia after my junior year, which is a high school all-star team.
Okay.
So they compile, I can't remember the roster size, 15 guys, whatever, that are the best of the best in the state of Georgia.
Alec, did you make that team?
Not in baseball. Football for sure.
So I went and played. I hit cleanup and I caught. I split the catching duties with this guy named Brian McCann that you ran into. Jeff Rancour was on that team. So
this is loaded.
We were good.
They were
Brandon Moss was on that team.
Stacked.
We were stacked.
And you were batting cleanup?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Stacked.
So
you
I
could
signed.
mash too.
I signed to go to college as a catcher.
Okay.
And I signed with LSU.
Okay.
The late 90s, early 2000s. LSU is still a perennial baseball powerhouse.
Yeah.
So no colleges had any conversations about pitching at all. It was all catch and hit. But in that tournament for Team Georgia, we were in McAlester, Oklahoma, and I had been playing left field this particular game. Mac was catching, and I heard the coaches talking about pitching and how they wanted to line it up. We were beating, I think, Team Canada. We were beating pretty good, like 11-1, 10-6.
Play hockey.
That's right.
It's a hockey team.
We were beating them pretty good, and we had Team California the next night in the championship series. So the coaches were talking about Coach Chester, Stuart Chester, who was at Cartersville, is now at Buford, was talking to Coach McDonald about pitching, and I overheard it and just said, I can throw, and they're like, you pitch? I said, well, I pitched some for my high school team. They're like, what do we got to lose? We'll save a guy, we'll save a couple of guys,
Sure.
let Caps go out there. And so I threw the last 2 innings in that game and was 95-97 as a junior in high school. There were a lot of scouts there, a lot of radar guns and stuff like that. So from then on, anything on the pro side was you're going to pitch.
Yeah.
So
if you had not done that, would you have been a major leaguer?
You know what? I don't think I can honestly answer that. I did have 5 at-bats in the big leagues. I had 1 hit. I saw it. Yeah, I saw it, but it's now to my, I guess, giving myself a little more credit, it had been like 6 years since I had seen live pitching. And then the next thing you know, I'm facing a major league caliber pitcher. But the first pitch I saw as a hitter in the big leagues was like right at my head. And I remember it was at PNC Park. It was left-handed pitcher. I can't remember who it was. But I fall down and I'm dusting myself off, and I have the thought in my head like,
Charge the mound.
oh my! No, I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking that's like 98 miles an hour. And I turn and I look at the scoreboard and it said 88 miles an hour. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that at bat, he walked me.
But so you pitched, and then at that point, did your whole trajectory change? Because I'm always fascinated. Like, there's these moments in our lives where something happens, and then your life completely takes a right turn and fundamentally shifts the path that you were on.
Yep. Yeah, I think being seen, I hadn't really been scouted as a pitcher. I had been scouted as a catcher and a hitter. And then at that tournament, and I was facing the best of the best for, the other teams, and I was throwing really hard and I had success. So it was like from then on, anything on the pro side, it's like, so my senior year, anytime I pitched, there was a bunch of scouts there.
Got it.
There were a lot more scouts there to watch me pitch than there were to hit and catch.
Yeah.
So senior year, you're in a position where you have a shot, or still kind of just I love playing baseball, or are there like Alec talked about,
You had scholarships and stuff, right, already to go to school, and you was going to go to LSU, as you say, right? So, but all of this was based on you playing catcher, right? And you started pitching in that tournament come your senior year. Now you faced with the choice of like, do I go play catcher or do I, entertain the pro? Obviously, you're going to entertain the pros because like that's where you want to get to.
So that decision came a little bit later.
Yeah.
That came after I graduated. So I ended up signing with LSU, wanted to go to Georgia. It's a long story why I didn't sign with Georgia. Went to Georgia Southern and strongly considered Georgia Southern because they were the only school that was going to let me play football and baseball. Everybody else that recruited me on the football side was, nah, you're not going to play baseball. Come here, you can play football. And everybody else that recruited me on the baseball side is like, no, football's done. Southern, both the football staff and the baseball staff was like, yeah, we'll do both. Yeah, we're good with that. So I really considered that. And I went down to Statesboro and had the time of my life.
For sure.
It's like,
for sure,
I could live here for a couple of years, you know? So that kind of factored in. But when LSU called me, excuse me, when LSU called me, it was kind of a game changer. I mean, it's LSU. So I made the decision. They made their offer. I made the decision. If I go to college, this is where I'm going to go. So I played my senior year. I believe it was about a week, maybe 10 days after graduation. The draft happened. And I ended up getting drafted. And a couple of weeks later, it came down to, what do I want to do? And I didn't want to pitch. I hated pitching, if I'm being candid. So I started thinking about junior college because at the time you could do what's called a draft and follow. So they could draft you, and then the team that drafts you can follow your progression for 1 year of junior college. If you go to a 4-year school,
and they still own your rights.
They still own your rights. If you go to a 4-year school, you have to go for 3 years.
Okay.
So you got to play 3 years before you're draft eligible again. So I started looking at junior colleges, and then just one day it kind of hit me. My dad was self-employed and had started having some pretty significant health issues. I kind of had the realization, like, going to school, even on a full scholarship, there's going to be a burden. And at the end of the day, what am I going to school for? Let's to play baseball. So I decided to go through the draft process and sign with the Pirates. Got down with the Pirates, and I still.
Where'd you get drafted, Matt?
I was in the 7th round.
Okay. How many rounds are in baseball?
There were 50 then.
Okay.
So now there's 25.
And at that point, agents around you, I mean, are you prepared for that?
I don't think you're ever really prepared for it until you go through it. I did have an advisor who ended up becoming my agent. Great guy, great family.
Were they projecting you to go 7th round, or like what?
I was projected to go higher.
Yeah.
So like there was. After my junior year, I was the 9th rated player in the country. And then I got hurt that summer. I broke a bone in my foot, and then fell. I struggled. I didn't have as good a year my senior year as I did my junior year. So kind of fell down a little bit. But still, I mean, 7th round is pretty high.
That's very high for 50 rounds.
And good opportunity. Got a little bit of a signing bonus. I signed for $150,000, which for me at 18 years old and how I grew up, like I'm never going to have to worry about anything in my life. So I wasn't prepared for that.
So what did that look like? I mean, because Alec and I have talked about this with him and other guests. It's, Alec, like he opened his check and he's like, where's the rest? Like, he's like, taxes. What's taxes?
Well, hold on, let me ask this question. So I guess, were they like slotted in terms of what you made already, or was that something that's negotiated?
So now it's slotted.
Okay, yeah.
Back then, you could negotiate a little
could negotiate.
And I had some leverage because of what I had done earlier in my high school career. So like I signed for a little bit more than what I probably should have gotten with that pick.
Okay.
I mean, you're talking 10, 15 grand.
Yeah.
But still, it's 10, 15
for
grand.
Sure.
So, but now everything is slotted. Like you've got.
That's how ours is too. Like
they're penalized. The team's penalized if they go over slot. And
I was
like
pissed. I was so pissed because when I came out it might have been, who was the last group to, I want to say it was the 08 or no, maybe 10 or something like that had a chance to negotiate their contracts before it became slotted. And when I came out, you was already going to make.
Yep. You got picked here. This is what we're going to give you. Take it or leave it.
Yeah. Like take it or leave it. Like you can't do nothing about it. So
Is Matt in that situation? So you got $150,000, more money than you've ever seen, right? Most of us at 18, rich, like guys was rich. What was the mindset going in, or who was in your ear? I mean, was your agent or maybe your advisor at that point? Maybe it wasn't your agent. How was money perceived by you?
So my agent didn't help me with anything financial. In the beginning, it was me. It was me. I didn't have anybody.
18-year-old you.
I didn't have anybody.
What was mom and dad foundational money? 'Cause we've said it a bunch of times. Like, what are the conversations about money at the dinner table? Like, how did you grow up around it? What was the attitude towards it?
I got to do this many appraisals this week for us to eat next week. Got it. That's kind of how I grew up.
So scarcity mindset. I mean,
yeah. I mean, it was paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
And it's not a pity thing. I had a great childhood. My brother and I didn't do without at all, but we watched our parents go without a fair amount and sacrifice for things. And then, we lived a good life until Dad really got sick. And then when he couldn't work, my mom had his first heart attack when I was 9 years old. And when I was 10, my mom took a job with the school system strictly for the benefits. She probably lost money when you look at how far she had to drive every day. But she took the job for the benefits, in case there was something catastrophic happen. And when my dad was healthy, he worked hard and provided pretty well. But then about that time, my senior year, he had a second heart attack on my 17th birthday. So that was fall my junior year, and then that's when things really started. I could see the writing on the wall, and things kind of turning. So I took $150,000. I bought a $30,000 truck. My aunt and uncle had actually bought a car from me my senior year to get to and from baseball and all the other stuff. So I paid off the rest of it. I think it was about $6,500, maybe $7,000, and gave it to my brother who was going into his freshman year.
Okay.
So actually, I think my mom drove it for a year, and then he drove it when he turned 16.
Okay. But was there any mindset yet of, hey, this may be the last check I get. I got to do something. No.
Zero.
Okay.
No.
That's the truck.
So I bought the truck.
F-150?
No, I bought a Dodge Ram because it was the cheapest one by like $5,000 or $6,000. I looked at the Silverado. I looked at the F-150, and it was right when Dodge came out with the 20-inch wheels from the factory.
So the real question is, do you still drive a Dodge?
I don't.
What do you drive now?
GM now.
Okay. Yeah. He's a Dodge man.
No, I'm not. I have a Ford.
That's a Ford?
That's a Raptor.
Is that the Raptor?
I have a Raptor. Alec has this ridiculous truck that's all jacked up with a train horn.
What do you drive? A GM?
Yeah.
It's a good buddy of mine.
2,500 diesel.
So that's like, as long as he's there, I'm going to drive GM.
Yeah. They like the best cars to me.
Yeah. No, I'm with you.
Nice interior.
I did have, I had a F-150 Platinum and loved that thing. 2014 or 15, something like that. I traded it in for the GM with my buddy.
So you make some money, then what?
Start playing.
Yeah.
Go play.
Minors first?
Oh, yeah.
How do minor league contracts work?
Your sign-in bonus, the 150 was a sign-in bonus, so they give that to you, and I got it in 2 installments. So I got it I got half of it the year I got drafted and half of it the next year, which was nice. Broke up the tax payment a little bit. But
did you know about taxes at the time? When you first?
It's like, hey, you got to pay taxes. Okay.
Yeah.
That ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
But
for sure.
That was kind of a rude awakening.
Yeah.
If you will. But they don't pay you right away. It's like a month after you sign.
Yeah.
They pay you your bonus.
I guess I was assuming like at the draft they're like,
no.
And here's your check. Here's your check.
No.
So I go down to Bradenton, Florida, and I'm in rookie ball. So at the time you got the big leagues, and then you've got AAA, and then AA, and then high A, and then low A, and then short season A, and then there's rookie ball. So I went to rookie ball, and I'm living in it's like barracks. It's a tiny little room, probably about the size of this room, with 4 beds. 2 sets of bunk beds, and there's like saloon doors that go into the 2 sinks and the shower and the toilet. And it's like, hey man, I'm Matt.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. It's like we're really going to know each other really well by the end of this
4 of y'all in there.
Well, fortunately there were only 2 of us, but when you go to spring training and stuff like that, there's 4 to a room.
And are there like people with different age groups? Like
usually,
or is it everybody the same age?
So rookie ball is usually like 18, the new draftees, and 18, 19, maybe you got a 20-year-old in there.
Okay.
So we're all pretty similar in ages. You also have the rehab guys. Minor league guys that are rehabbing shoulder, whatever injuries. They're down there with you. But in rookie ball, your day starts at 6:30.
Okay.
So the cafeteria opens at 6. You go in, you can eat. You go into the training room, you do whatever you got to do, which at 18 years old, I didn't have to do much to get ready to play. And then we're on the field stretches at 7:15. So it's early mornings. Should have been early nights. Wasn't always. But I remember going, games are at 12 o'clock in Bradenton, Florida.
It's a little warm.
120 degrees every single day. So it's hot, but your day is done by 2:30, 3 o'clock. Once the game's over, you're done. So then it's, for the guys that had cars, I was one of them that had a car down there. You can drive around, go to the mall, walk around, go to the beach. It's a pretty good life if you can afford it. But I remember going to the mall in Bradenton, and I saw a pair of Nike tennis shoes that I wanted to buy. They were $110. I was like, all right, we get paid on Friday. Like, I'll get my paycheck, put it in the bank, I'll go buy my shoes. My first paycheck in professional baseball, $96.
Maybe you put the shoes on layaway.
2-week paycheck. So this is like, of course, I'm disappointed about it. And I called my dad and was telling him about it. I was like, I was going to go buy these shoes, whatnot. My dad's like, I'll go put $40 in your account. Like, go buy your shoes.
Thanks, Dad.
Like, it's like, thanks, Dad. Appreciate you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. So I ended up getting the shoes, which was awesome. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't even remember what kind they were. They were Nike something. But I probably rocked them. And
you look good, I'm sure.
Yeah, looked great in them, whatnot. But I started looking through my paycheck, my pay stub. I'm like, they took out $4.50 for laundry. They took out what I thought was free food. They charged it.
They charge you.
Room and board. Like, I'm thinking, all right, it really sucks living in this. Basically like barracks.
Yeah.
It's a Motel 8 that's on the property, but they own it. They run it. I mean, the doors open up to go out to a walkway to the field in the parking lot. I'm like, this really sucks. But you know what? It's free. No, it ain't free. So my $950 a month is now like
gone.
$100, $50 a week.
That was crazy to me. I think we had one guest on. I think it was Kevin Minter who talked about like the overhead charges that the teams are charging the players. Like Alec, and I think he was talking about the Vikings when he was talking about the specific reference, but charging for the food after the games. Yeah. And in my head, I'm naive to it, but I get it. If I'm the owner, it's like, well, I'm putting it out there. Somebody's paying for it. It's probably not going to be me. Yeah. And I'm running a business. You're my employee.
That's right.
You're going to pay it.
That's right.
But shocking to me, as a naive watcher, you just think like, hey, that's all.
They just get that free. It's like, that's just not free.
Nothing.
Yeah. And everybody's got their hand out.
Yeah.
And there's things that you want to do. Like I want to take care of my family if they need it.
Not in rookie ball.
No, but you can't, and then when Dad really got sick, it kind of became, all right, I had to help, and there goes the signing bonus. Next thing I know, that's gone. Now I'm fortunately I'm in AA now, so I'm making $1,200 a month. So it's like, all right. And I had a great setup in AA. I had a host family that would not take any money at all.
Gotcha.
So they were awesome. So at that point, I thought I was rich. And right after, I didn't spend a whole lot of time in AA before I got to the big leagues. And then I got to the big leagues, and the rest has been really good.
So wait, just for me to AA to big leagues. So how do contracts work at that point? Like, are you signing? Is there like a league minimum like there is in football once you're on the active roster? Okay. Yep.
So 2002, I go to rookie ball.
Yep.
03, I go to spring training. I stay in rookie ball all year. I had a great year. I'm a starting pitcher at this point, and they sent me to high A for the playoffs, and I pitched really well in the playoffs. 04, I go to, end of 03, I go back to instructional league, which is a month-long time period down in Bradenton where the spring training site is, and you play like these, basically like scrimmages. But you work on different things that you need to work on. Your pickoff move, your slider, or whatever it is that you need to kind of work on for the next year.
Dial in.
Yeah. So I did all that. And then 04, I go to spring training, and they tell me I'm going to go to low A. So I'm not going to get a chance to go back to high A. I'm going to go to low A, but I'm going to be the opening day starter, which was like a badge of honor. So I'm fired up. I'm excited about that. I got my tail kicked the entire year. I didn't make it out of the second inning on opening night. About halfway through the season, they send me down to short season A, continue to get my tail kicked all year. Go back to instructional league, which I didn't think I would get invited because that's usually for the prospects. And I'm like, all right, I've worked my way off the prospect list. It ain't going to happen. So go to 05. I almost retired that off season. It was like January, and I was talking to my dad about it. And I was going to retire, walk on at West Georgia, try to play football and see if I could do something in football. Dad's like, why would you do that? Like, you can't enroll in classes until the fall. So, like, go play. If they release you, they release you. Then you can, get started. At
this point, you're still 20, right? 21.
Right. 21. So I go to spring training in 05, and they call me into the office the last day of spring training. And I'm literally walking down the hall going, this is it. They're going to release me. I'm going to drive home today, and I'll start looking at football stuff and going to college. And my college was paid for through my draft status. So that was one thing about getting drafted out of high school is they pay for 4 years of college.
Oh. It's a nice perk.
Yeah, so I could walk on anywhere and I don't need a scholarship. Like, college is paid for. That's great. And they tell me they're going to make me a reliever. They give me this whole spiel that I think was true, but it's like, when we drafted you, we thought you were a reliever anyway, but you had so much success in 2 and 3 as a starter that we wanted to kind of see how long you could go. So they make me reliever. I go back to low A. And like the second week of the season, I start closing for the low A team. So I'm closing, having a great year. A couple of guys go up that I thought I should have gone up ahead of, but I didn't. And then August 1st, they send me to Double A, and I'm in Double A. My second night in Double A, the closer blows out his elbow, so I start closing for the Double A team. We play in the playoffs against Akron. Driving back, Tony Beasley, who's the third base coach for the Rangers now, was my manager, and he taps me on the shoulder, and he says, hey, we've told a couple of guys you're going to Triple A. One guy doesn't want to go. If they want one more arm, will you go? I'm like, heck yeah, I'll go.
Why wouldn't you?
21 years. Well, that was my point. The guy that didn't want to go, his wife had a baby like a month earlier. He just saw it as like, all right, it's another week. I'm going to go home. So I went to AAA, pitched in a 5-game series. We lost all 3 of them, but I pitched game 1 through an inning and 2/3, and pitched game 3 through another inning and threw really well. But we got swept. At the end of that day, I'm in Indianapolis, and I go into the lunchroom in Indianapolis, and they've catered Outback, which was like, it might as well have been Ruth Chris.
Yes.
For a minor league baseball player, like, I've got a filet, I've got an Alice Springs chicken. There wasn't that there.
Cheese fries.
Like, I've got the bread, I've got broccoli, like, I've got all this stuff here. And I'm like, getting ready to cut into it, and the manager walks in, shakes everybody's hand, tells them great year, walks out. I sit down, I've got my knife and my fork in my hand. I'm literally like cutting into the steak, and he whistles at me and waves me outside.
Did you bring the plate?
So, no, I left it there. I was a nervous wreck, by the way.
He just whistled, just like.
Yeah, I was like, hey, and got my attention and like waved me out.
Okay.
And he was standing against this white cinder block wall, and he sticks his hand out and says, congratulations, you're going to the big leagues. And he turns and walks off. Doesn't say anything else. Like, what'd he say?
Like what?
So I turn and look the other way, and then Brian Graham, our farm director, and Jeff Bannister, our field coordinator at the time, they're smiling, they come over, hug me, and whatnot. And we'd had a rain delay, so it's like 1 o'clock in the morning in Indianapolis, 2 o'clock in the morning here.
Did you eat your steak?
What's that?
Did you eat the steak?
Never went back to it.
Oh.
So I go into the clubhouse, and I grab my phone out of my pocket, and I walk down to the dugout, and I'm starting to call my parents, and now I'm getting emotional. It's like, I can't. Like, if my dad answers the phone or my mom answers the phone, what I'm going to do? So I called my brother, who's a junior in high school at the time. And he answers the phone. He's like, hey, you coming home tomorrow? We listened on the radio because you could like stream it through the internet and whatnot. I said, no, I'm going to go to Pittsburgh and see Zach, who was one of my best friends in the minor leagues. He had gotten called up in June or July. He's like, oh, okay, you going to go hang out for a little while? Or I said, I'm going to go to Pittsburgh. And he goes, oh, you're going to go see Zach? I said, no, I'm going to go play. I still get goosebumps. Like, just replaying that in my mind. And gets all excited. And I was like, Kris, you got to go tell mom and dad. Like, I'll lose it. And he goes in. Like I said, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. And he's standing over my mom with his phone to his ear. It's like, hey, you got to wake up. And I hear my mom like, Christopher Capps, you tell me right now what's wrong. It's like, wake up, Dad. You know, so it was a pretty cool moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Alec, I got to ask a quick question, transition. Yes. Do you know what the best performing real estate asset class has been in the last 28 years?
I do not.
It's self-storage.
Is it?
Self-storage.
Last 28 years.
Last 28 years outperformed all other major asset classes, apartments, apartments, industrial, retail, office. It's been an incredible asset class.
Hey, shouts out to Reliant.
One of our great sponsors here, Alec, Reliant Real Estate Management.
Yes,
anybody listening who wants to have access to Reliant's most recent fund, Reliant Self-Storage Fund 4, where you have access to investing in self-storage passively with one of the top 20 self-storage operators in the country, you can do that. Reach out to reliant-mgmt.com. We'll get you all the information you need. Alec, I know you're going to do it.
Yes, sir. I'm already in there.
Maybe Caps will too.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, you're now a major leaguer. What's your first contract? How much? How does it work?
I was up for 2 weeks. I remember the first 2-week paycheck was like just under $15,000. And that allowed me to not get a job in the off season. So I was able to train a little more. Went to spring training and ended up making the team out of spring training and never went down after that.
And that was a 7-year run, right? At that point.
A little over 7 years. I got hurt. I hurt my shoulder in 2012 with Minnesota and ended up having it fixed in 13 with Cleveland. Didn't pitch for Cleveland really at all. Re-injured myself in 14 trying to get back with them. Mm-hmm. And then signed with Atlanta. Wasn't healthy, wasn't ready. Went to Puerto Rico and played a couple of months of winter ball. And then that spun into an opportunity with the Diamondbacks. And I finished my last year in 16 with Arizona.
So as a pitcher, though, what's the life cycle of a pitcher in that majors typically? Like what's an average guy? How long do they last?
So I heard the other day the average major league career is less than 2 years.
Alec, that's less than the NFL, right?
Yeah.
Average major league, right? I thought NFL was
I feel like it used to be I was just like 2 years or less. Mm-hmm. And now I really feel like it's like a year or less now. Like,
oh, wow.
Just because of how young the league is, like you see a lot of teams, like a lot of new faces, like every week almost in a sense.
But that stat factors in, how many guys come up and get a cup of coffee.
Yeah. They're there for the 2 weeks that you were, but they never get called back up. Okay. Yeah. So, but still a short stint. And you had an incredible career from that standpoint, 7 years. Talk to me about, first contract, when you sign out of spring training, what's that look like dollars and cents wise? Because I assume for you, that's life-changing at that point.
It was. So my first 2-week paycheck was just under $15,000. At the time, 05 and 06, the major league minimum was $289,000.
Okay.
And then going into 07, I think it jumped up to like $325 or something like that. And then before the 08 season, I signed a 2-year contract with the Pirates for $3 million.
Was that was your first big boy contract?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's skip to that because that's the fun part, right? So at that point, financially, are you just grinding to survive? Because your league minimum's $200,000-$300,000. That's pretty good, but it depends what you were spending.
Yeah. So that's the burn is what gets you.
Yeah.
And it's not what you always think it is. Like I never bought a Lamborghini. I never bought a Ferrari.
Exactly.
I didn't buy like really nice cars.
You didn't buy no RC cars?
No.
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
So when I made the All-Star game, I spoiled I also got a little bonus that I used to buy it, but I bought a Mercedes.
Okay.
AMG, what is it? S63.
It's a nice car.
So yeah, it was awesome. But it's the little things that add up, so it's the travel, and a lot of it.
Off season?
Both.
Okay.
So when I met my wife, part of the deal was she was working here in Atlanta, and it's like, look, what are we going to prioritize? We're going to prioritize our finances and my career, or we're going to prioritize our life and our marriage. And I kind of had for me, my personality, and for her, if our marriage is going to last, you have to be with me. Mm-hmm. You have to go with me. So she quit her job and she came with me, and she traveled with me a lot. So Jen's been to about every city in the big leagues.
Wow.
I think Detroit, Seattle, and Toronto.
You're paying for that out of pocket. The team's not.
Yep.
She's not flying on a team.
I'm flying her to and from. She can stay in the hotel with us, so I don't have to pay for a hotel room. But you're now paying for dinner.
But that's 70 games a year, right?
81
games a year that she's coming on an airplane ticket.
Yep.
Hey.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that travel, and that's I wouldn't change that if I could. We had a lot of great times. And then when we started having kids, some of that had to slow down. And we knew there was a shorter runway with that. You can't do that kind of travel when you have kids. So we enjoyed that and had fun with her being with me a lot of places. But there's just a lot of built-in expenses of being a major league player. You've got clubhouse dues that are back then you're looking probably $1,500 a month at home, and then once you're a guy that's not making the minimum, you're kind of looked at to take care of everybody else. So when you're on the road, it was $100 to $150 a day that I'm paying the clubhouse guys in the clubhouse. So if you're
tips,
dues and then tips on top. If anybody does anything special for you, you tip them on top of that.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, your agent 5% off the top.
Sure.
So whatever he negotiates for you goes to him.
That's 5%. I didn't know that. For baseball,
3 to 5.
Yeah.
Depends on the agency. Yeah.
I always heard 3.
3.
I mean, that was ours. I mean, anybody I ever talked to, they was always offering 3% and below. Well,
yeah.
Did you think about it, Matt? Of like, hey, we're going to budget. I guess 2 things. What was your perspective long term? Were you thinking like, hey, I'm going to make enough money to build enough passive income where I can live forever? Was it just kind of year by year? Because some guys really were budget conscious, right? Where, like, look, I didn't know if I was coming back the next year.
Yeah. And
then, the NFL guys, obviously their contracts aren't guaranteed, right? Yeah. So a lot of it was.
I didn't think 10 years, 15, 20 years, anything like that. When I was playing, it was looking at your service time to max out, get to 10 years to max out your pension, and then you're shortening that period. So now I can start drawing my pension at 45.
Okay.
At a pretty good discount.
What's MLB pension-ish?
If you've got 10 years of service, right now I think it's like $280 a year.
That's not bad.
Pretty good pension.
Yeah.
So I'll get 72% of it.
Okay. Gotcha.
When I get to that age, if I take it at 45, I don't want to take it at 45.
Sure, it's a lesser number,
right? Yep. And the math, there's an algorithm a chart that they send out, like the sweet spots, 57, 58, whatever it is. But to max it out, you wait till you're 62, and then you get that full pension. But you have to live to be 96, I think, to break even.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I give it a couple of years, and I'll start looking at when I want to start taking it, whatever that number is, 55, 56, 58, whatever it is, start pulling it. But the investment side of it, I hired a financial advisor that was awesome. He did really good for me in the market and things like that. We bought a lot of bonds. We were very conservative. I bought a lot of municipal bonds. So you're looking at 2.5% to 3.5% that I'd bring in.
Tax-free.
Yep. Ask about real estate a couple of times and wish I had pushed the envelope. Knowing what I know now, I wish I had really pushed the envelope on real estate.
What type of real estate? Because
I didn't know. I mean, my dad was an appraiser, so really like single family is all I knew.
It was already in your blood already.
Yeah. So single family is all I knew. Buy a couple of rental houses. And when the market crashed 08, 09, I had bought my first house kind of at the peak. So now I'm looking at my value and talking to my financial guy about it, and he's like, no, real estate. You don't want real estate like that. Yeah, you want to go over here. And I trusted him, and I followed him at the time, and I was more concerned about getting people out. But what I've realized later on in life is you've got to follow the money. Follow the money. Where's the money going? So if a financial guy advises you away from something that they don't control, they can't collect a fee on it. So I wasn't smart enough to pick up on that when I was in my 20s.
Yeah. You need to say that again so the listeners can hear that.
You just got to follow the money.
If a financial advisor, what if he try to guide you away from something, not
if they don't control the investment, they don't charge a fee.
They can't charge a fee.
So most financial advisors is an AUM fee, right? Assets under management, they're gonna charge their 1-2%, maybe less, depends how much money you got with them. But you go to alternative investments like a Reliant, right?
Yeah.
If they're not, it's called selling away, right? If those dollars go outside their purview, they're not charging that fee on it anymore. Look, incentives drive behaviors.
Sure.
Right? And so and it's also an expertise thing, right? Where some of the alternative assets, real estate, there's a bunch of stuff in that world that's outside the traditional equities markets that a lot of advisors don't know or don't understand. And so it's always like, not really sure. So in your world, how'd you find your advisor? How'd you get to him, or is it him or her? Or?
Yeah, so I'm on my third now. Just relationships. So that's a great segue if you want to take that into the next chapter of my life after I retired. Just leveraging relationships. I do some broadcasting for the Pirates now. And somebody asked me the other day how that came about, and it's a really cool story. On the Caravan, I used to sign up to go on the Caravans all the time.
Yeah. Wait, what's a Caravan?
So it's where they fly you into Pittsburgh, and you do a fan fest in Pittsburgh, but then they put you on a bus, and like 3 or 4 players and a couple of staff members, they drive into the outskirts of the city.
Just to bring awareness to the Pirates?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we would go to malls, we would sign autographs, we would go to schools, we would do things at elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, and kind of like pep rallies.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Pirates players are here. Well, the director of broadcasting, I didn't know who he was at the time, but he was on my bus, and I was just friendly to him, just talked and was nice. And when he called me and asked me if I'd be interested in the broadcasting thing, I asked him that question, like, why me? Why are you thinking about me? And he goes, well, I just remember when you were playing, like you told me your story, and I told him I put my brother through college, and was telling him about that because he asked me why I signed up for so many Caravans. Like, you guys are paying me $3,500 to do this. Like, that's a tuition payment that doesn't have to come out of this bucket. Like, I'm in. He's like, you're paying for your brother to go to college. He was like, you were just cool. There wasn't an ego, easy to talk to, and
you never let those relationships lead.
Right. It took 15 years.
Yep.
15 years later, he calls me and asks me if I want to try this out. And I'm like, I'd love to try it out. It's a microphone. Cool. I'm watching a game and I got to talk about it. I think I can do that.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing at home anyways.
Yeah. So talk about relationships. You asked me about my financial guy now. Unfortunately, he passed away week before last, but Jim Poole was a retired pitcher. He got involved with a group, Buckhead Investment Partners, BIP Capital and BIP Wealth now, and got in with them. And I developed a relationship with Jim and really liked Jim. He's a trustworthy guy. And he started talking to me about some of the planning and things like that he was putting together for former athletes. So Jim came in and built inside of BIP's or under their umbrella. He built out an athlete division.
Okay,
and they've done really well.
So would you say that you essentially kind of trusted like one of your teammates, kind of guy? You had somebody that kind of showed you like what they were doing, right? And you like, I trust that guy. Like, obviously, you do your own research, you get an understanding, but as you say, building those relationships, having that relationship with him kind of helped, push you to...
Relationships take the wall down.
Yeah.
Because you can relate to this, and athletes that are watching and listening, anytime, when I was playing, anytime somebody brought up money, there was a wall.
A big wall.
That went straight up. And, to your point, if it's a teammate, you're sitting in a bullpen, you're sitting on a bus or a plane or anything like that, and you start talking about what they're doing, like that wall's not there.
Yeah.
If you walked into the clubhouse and started talking about tax plans and 401ks and stuff like that,
instantly,
like, people are just going to sit there and look at you like, nope, not hearing it. And baseball's done a nice job the last couple of years of putting the resources around guys that wasn't there as much when I was a young player.
Yeah. Is for you career earnings ish?
You can Google it. I want to say about 18 million, something like that.
And were you chasing a number? Were you chasing, was your financial advisor saying like, hey, Matt, get me to here and we'll be good the rest of the way?
No.
So it was, okay. So how did you think about it? Especially as you got to the tail end of your career, right? You're in your late 20s, 30s. There's less time ahead of you than, there was.
Yep.
How did you think about what was happening post game? And were you in a position where you said, hey, I don't have to work the rest of my life?
So the greatest thing that I did was when I retired, I had zero debt. I paid cash for my house. I paid cash for every vehicle I had. I literally, the only debt I had was my American Express that was paid on the last day of every month.
Gotcha.
And
your burn rate on a monthly basis, that was a low number.
I wouldn't say it was a low number.
But you just he had that stress of like having all this debt out there.
I wasn't paying. It wasn't compounding because I wasn't paying interest on it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I looked at what our burn was, and I looked at our nest egg, and it's like, okay, this is my runway. This is my period of time that, we could live, or we can cut the burn. We can cut the burn rate down, and that runway goes this, or we can cut the burn rate way down, and that runway takes me to retirement, and we're golden.
And at any time during that point, Matt, were you thinking, how do I take that nest egg and build passive income, or was that a not a thing in your mind yet?
I didn't understand it. I didn't.
Okay.
I knew nothing about it. I wasn't educated with it. I didn't grow up around it. I literally had no idea other than what financial guys were telling me.
And the league didn't really offer really type of resources like that at the time.
The Alumni Association did.
Yeah.
And does now.
Yeah.
But no, it never crossed my mind.
Okay. So it was really just, hey, I got $100 in the bank. I spent $10 a year. I got 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And then, so was it enough to live forever? Do you have a big, no, not the way you were living.
Right.
Got it.
So that's the key, lifestyle. So do I want to adjust my lifestyle? I don't think anybody wants to adjust their lifestyle. So
what's your burn rate today ish?
Mine's
just under 30. It's the houses that are expensive.
Yeah, I'm under
30 a year?
30 a month.
Oh, I was about to
30
say
a year. It's gas.
Yeah.
If I include like insurance and taxes and all that, I'm probably close to that.
Yeah.
Alec, do you know yours?
25.
Yeah. So how I've always thought of it too is like, look, I just got to get that number passively.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest, if I lose, the job blows up, real estate market destroyed, well, most of my investment income will go away at that point. Mm-hmm. So I'll probably be in trouble. But that was kind of always my thought is like, just got to cover my monthly nut. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Whatever happens after that, great. But if I can cover my monthly nut, and look, we can adjust lifestyle if we have to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Alec doesn't have to drive a giant truck with a train horn. Yeah. But he does.
Yeah.
I'll sell that sucker in a heartbeat.
If you need to. But I think that's always the mindset piece is like a lot of guys when you ask that question, not just professional athletes, but guys in my business too, like, what's your burn? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, well, maybe you should. Yeah. Like if you're going to build a plan, you got to start with something. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's always been, well, what's my burn rate? And like you, I want to live well too. And I don't have a Lamborghini either, and we're not flying around on private jets, but we all have worked hard for whatever we're doing.
Sure.
And I want to live well too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's interesting, that mindset shift. And for you, how did you get to the idea of, okay, I can use my nest egg to go start creating income streams?
It took me a little while because I was
post-retirement or during this, or was this all after you stopped playing?
Post-retirement.
Okay.
Yeah. So
my
career didn't end.
Post-retirement doesn't make sense. It's post-career.
Post-career. Yeah. I'm sorry.
In retirement.
Yeah. Pre-retirement. Yeah. My career didn't end how I wanted it to end or how I envisioned it ending. I'd still be pitching today if my body would let me. And I tell people my body and the good Lord have a different plan, and I'm trying to figure out what that is. So what I'm doing today may not be what I end up doing 5 years from now. Mm-hmm. I like what I'm doing today, but I've got kind of different toes and different waters. Still don't know what you want to do when you grow up. That's right.
Me either.
That's right. But I enjoy the real estate stuff I'm doing. I enjoy. So kind of I found the land that we built the apartments on that we own. So
let's talk about that story a little bit. Mm-hmm. So first off, where was the shift of, hey, I can take this money and go build it? Was it a mentor? Was it a book? Was there something that prompted it for you?
A buddy of mine called me, Jimmy Barthmeyer, retired player also. He called me and said, hey, I want you to meet this guy. I said, okay, what's he do? Well, he's trying to raise money for some medical office buildings and like walls going up, But I sat and had lunch with this guy, and he was about my age, maybe a couple of years older. His name is Bo Terrell. Really liked him, and I ended up investing with him. And I got a monthly return. And started to see that. I had to see that and experience it firsthand before I really wanted to explore it. So I invested with him passively my last year playing and then my first year out.
And that was your first exposure, any sort of alternatives other than traditional equities?
Correct.
Yep. Your financial advisor, he's buying bonds, traditional equities, mutual fund, et cetera. Okay.
Yep. Correct. Other than my personal house.
Yep.
So got into that, and after I retired, they came to me with another one. There was a package of 4 buildings. And one of them was in Stockbridge, and I'm down in Stockbridge, literally on my hands and knees looking at these HVAC units. I climb up, I'm looking at the roof.
The appraisal coming out of you.
That's right.
And I walk out into the parking lot, and I see Bo and his partner, and they're like, what are you doing down here? I'm like, I don't know.
I'm looking.
I don't. I'm looking at it.
Why
like,
are you not looking?
And they start laughing. They're like, we have 50-something investors, and you're the only one that'll see these assets. And I'm like, really? They're like, yeah. I was like, well, I mean, I feel like I know you guys, but like, kind of wanted to make sure they were real before I wrote a check. And
you'd be shocked, Matt, how many people do almost zero due diligence and write checks. It's crazy.
So Bo's partner, Andrew, asked me, he's like, are you interested in this stuff? And I was like, I could be. And he actually offered it up for me to come shadow him for a couple of weeks. So I went down to their office Monday to Friday for 2 weeks and then decided to go get my real estate license. I was like, I think I could enjoy this. I think I could.
And the thought process at that point was go be a real estate broker?
Yeah. Get in and I could lease. I mean, I still have my real estate license, so I can do a lot of different things with it. But they'll lease deals. They'll also try to find they'll find tenants and put them into deals. But they try to find depressed assets.
Sure.
Either assets that need construction revitalization or their rent is down, lease percentage is down, and they'll try to lease it up and then they'll sell it. They'll flip it. So they'll create the value. So I went and got my license, hung it with them for a while. Ended up buying my own building in Austell with a buddy of mine.
Medical office?
Medical office building, small medical office building, 5 tenants. But Northside Hospital was the anchor tenant.
Okay.
So it had 2 vacancies when we bought it, and we filled up 1 vacancy and couldn't wait to get rid of it. Managing doctors was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I was doing it myself. Blaine and I were. So we got out of that.
So wait, let me ask you a question on that, just specifics-wise. Do you remember the numbers in the deal-ish?
I remember our investors saw close to a 30% return.
So you brought guys in on that deal. Okay. Purchase price-ish?
2.5.
Okay, so you buy it 2.5. Do you remember cap rate when you bought it?
I don't.
Okay. But how did you know how to underwrite the deal?
Bo and Andrew.
Okay.
They held our hands through the whole thing.
I got you. So you were bringing them, hey, I'm looking at this medical office building. Walk me through what the numbers should look like.
Yep.
Got it. And then you went out and raised capital for it.
Yep.
How many investors? Just friends and family type of thing?
Probably 10.
Okay. Just buddies.
Yep.
People who trusted
Couple
you.
of former teammates. To your point, like, hey, let's go grab lunch. Let me tell you what I'm doing.
Like, hey, listen.
Trying to buy this building.
In the wall? Wall, no wall. What happens when the teammate calls?
I think it kind of depends on who the teammate is too. I think there's a wall that comes up just because you're talking about that number and instantly you just kind of like, hey, dude, I've been around you a million times. Like, I see how you are. Like, you, Well, you know, it kind of, you have that, but
you're not the most business savvy.
What's that wall do when I look at you and I say, here's the check I'm writing?
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes a difference.
Exactly. Now it's like, no, I can show you the proof. Like, hey, this
I'm
what
not
I'm
asking
doing.
for just your money.
No, exactly.
I'm putting mine in it too.
Yeah, like
that
I'm in it as
makes
well.
a difference.
So that was your first. I mean, that's a big step. Like, go from my first 2 passive investments to I'm buying my own deal in an asset class that I've never done anything in, and I'm bringing in other people's money, which is a huge responsibility. I mean, I can speak to that from us. We have 2,000 investors. You're beholden, right? And these are your boys. Like, especially the first couple, you don't want to screw up because they're your boy. Like, they trusted you. They don't know what they're investing in.
Yeah.
Right.
So kudos to you just to take the first step. I'm impressed that was the first. It was like, I did these 2. Let's go buy that building. And it worked?
Yeah.
I mean, other than the doctors that pain in the ass, you sold it, made money on it. Investors all walked away with cash.
The doctors were great. They just managing doctors.
Yeah.
You know, the doctors are great at what they do.
Okay.
They be all over the place though. They like.
It's, for instance, we were on vacation and I got a call from one of the doctors. There's snakes on our doorstep. You got to send somebody out here. So I call my maintenance guy and he goes down. He's there within 45 minutes of the phone call.
I'm just telling you that if someone called me and said, Kris, you got to go get the snakes off the doorstep, I'd be like, dude, just bring the building down. I don't want to see the snakes. I don't want to talk about them. Just set the building on fire and we'll see what happens.
I don't like snakes either.
Yeah, I'm not.
But our maintenance guy, I called him. I was like, how do you feel about snakes? He's like, what kind? I was like, I have no idea. He goes, all right, I'll check it out. So he was a rock star. He was within 45 minutes of getting that call. He was on their doorstep. He's like, where are they? It's like, I don't know. Called the office manager. The office manager was like, oh, that was yesterday. Like, what? Like, I got a frantic call 45 minutes ago. Like, the world is ending because there's 2 snakes on the doorstep. And they're like, oh, that was yesterday. So I called the doc back, and it's like the doc was like, yeah, it was just, I think you should put some traps out or something. Like, so it doesn't happen again. I'm like,
appreciate it.
Okay. So anyway, so that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, we need to sell this. You know, we knew we'd make a little bit of money. So I had a little bit of capital given back to me, made a little bit of money, found some land in Huntsville and bought it. Well, we put it under contract and then kind of went through, on our own, we learned the whole entitlement process, going through that. But again, developing relationships.
So wait, you're glossing over to do a ground up development, to buy a piece of dirt, get it entitled, to build a property is not easy.
Right.
So what first steps? A broker approaches you with a piece of dirt?
No.
You guys found it?
No. My brother-in-law called me and said, hey, I hear there might be 20 acres over here in Huntsville. I was like, okay, what do they want for it?
And now you're a real estate tycoon. You just flipped a mobile medical office building.
That's right.
You're ready.
That's right. I'm a pro.
I know.
Yeah. I know everything about this. I got it.
I got it.
So I said, you know, what are you going to build on it? And my brother-in-law is a metal fab guy, and he's a really smart guy. He got into banking and then took over his family business. But he goes, I don't know. It's like, all right. He goes, I just know it's a great buy. Like, all right. So I drove over to Huntsville and I looked at it, and it's a soybean field. Okay. So I'm not the smartest person in this room. I got lucky. We got lucky.
You might be the smartest person in this room.
A couple of times. I'll argue with you on that. But anyway, it's neither here nor there, I guess. So we end up tying up the dirt. I set up a meeting with the city manager.
And wait. You tied up the dirt with the plan of what?
Figuring out what we could do with it.
All right. So I'm just going to control it. Okay.
Yep. So we tied it up.
We get the asset first.
Yep. We tied it up. Got a pretty good tail on it. 6 months of due diligence we got on it.
Okay.
Went and introduced ourselves to the city. Found out what the needs were in the city. Okay, they want multifamily. Okay, we need to get it entitled for multifamily. It's farmland.
Sure.
Okay, this is what that process is like. We're hungry for it. We can expedite X, Y, and Z. You know,
the city's telling you this because they want the building.
Yep.
And they want the tax base.
Yep, that's right. So we got through all the entitlement stuff inside of 6 months.
No one's holding your hand?
Not yet.
I mean, who's doing like site plan, architect, all that stuff? You're just kind of figuring it out as you go?
Haven't got there yet.
Oh, okay.
So we were just going to flip the dirt.
Okay. Get it entitled, flip it.
Started calling a couple of apartment developers. We had a group out of Nashville and a group out of Charlotte. Group out of Charlotte was going to buy it. Their first offer was $15,000 a door. We got it entitled, 360 units at $1,800 a door. We were going to make some money and be real happy. Go about our way.
That's over 10x.
What's that?
It was 10x.
This was January of 20.
Oh.
So fast forward a couple of weeks, the group out of Charlotte, they make their offer. We're ecstatic because we think we can get them to 20.
Wait, I have one more question before you get there. Whose money's in this deal?
Right now, it's just me and one partner, Blaine Boyer.
So you guys are going to make some money.
We're going to make some money. We're going to be real happy.
Yeah.
All we've done is down payment,
right.
or not down payment, but
due diligence.
Earnest money.
Yeah, earnest money.
And some due diligent costs and whatnot. It's like minimal investment. So the group out of Charlotte, they haven't seen the land in person. So their principal has to, I guess, part of their code or whatever, the principal has to come down and see it. I'm going to fudge the days on it, but let's say we're supposed to meet them on Tuesday. Friday, the guy calls me that I've been going back and forth with. He goes, hey, our principal's asthmatic, and, the airlines just shut down
the
air travel
thing.
because of this COVID thing. It's like, we're still very interested, but let's give it 2 or 3 weeks. Let all this stuff blow over. Yeah, let it blow over, and then we'll come back.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. And we thought, like, all right, give it a couple of weeks, let it blow over. As you know, it didn't blow over. So by the grace of God, going back to relationships, a kid that I had helped mentor and helped him get into college and pitch, his dad is a real estate developer. So we met for breakfast or lunch or something like that.
Now, were you in trouble at that point? We
were going to walk away from it. We had some sunk costs that we were just going to walk away from.
Just going to eat it because you didn't have an option.
At this point, we don't know how to execute.
And you're coming up on that 6 months where the seller's saying, "Hey, close on this thing, poop or get off the pot."
He's a pretty shrewd fella.
Yeah.
So it was
he knew.
He's like, I've got 3 backup offers, which maybe he did. I don't know. So by the grace of God, Matt calls me and wants to have breakfast or lunch. I don't remember.
Did he know you had the dirt?
No.
Oh, so you weren't out seeking.
No, he just wanted to get together.
This was the grace of God.
He just wanted to get together, like, hear what you're doing. He knew that I'd been doing the medical office stuff and whatnot. And I was telling him about the dirt. He's like, why Huntsville? So I started telling him about all the jobs coming to Huntsville, and Facebook's there and this big data center and like
Rocket.
Yeah.
Rockets.
I mean, there's like the FBI is moving down their cybersecurity headquarters. It's like 6,000 jobs, you know, like all the people that's going to bring down. And he goes, well, why don't we do it together? And I look at him and I said, do you build apartments? He goes, yeah, we just delivered some in Norcross. We got some in Charleston. We got some in, I think, Gainesville. He goes, when I found out you were in real estate, I always thought it'd be cool to do something together. So he got his partner tied into it, and we partnered up, and they're the guys that execute. They're the guys that know what they're doing, and we got lucky.
Hey.
Is it built?
Oh, yeah.
Full?
We're not full. We're just under 90% occupied.
Basically full.
Yeah. So want to get over 95. We want to stay over 95.
Is this buy, hold strategy, refinance, get money out, hold it forever, or what are you thinking?
So I mentioned we got lucky. Through BIP, I invested in tropical smoothies, like when they went corporate, from family owned to corporate. I invested in that and had a pretty big capital gains come through.
Okay.
So when we cashed out of that, I don't remember, I think it was close to a 4X. It was a really nice pop for us. About the same time that I got that, I learned that our land in Huntsville is in an opportunity zone. So
for those of you guys that don't know what Opportunity Zone is, essentially it's an IRS program that they were trying to incentivize people to develop in underserved areas. Now, I would argue that how they drew the map, it's probably not all underserved areas, but what they've created is a huge tax incentive.
So what the federal government did with Opportunity Zones is they allowed the local municipalities to draw the maps. So Huntsville saw the areas that they wanted growth, and they drew it that way to bring in private capital to grow the city how they, according to their vision.
And what it's done is, for guys like Matt who have big capital gains, the Opportunity Zone essentially allows them to roll those monies in with very minimal or zero taxable event. And so there's been huge pushes of capital into OZ funds. And I think they launched in 18, maybe. Does that sound right?
It does.
We're a few years into a 10-year program, so the benefit has decreased for each year, but still a huge push. And that's incredibly lucky for you, because if you guys were going out to raise capital, you're going to have a ton of people who are like, hey, I got cap gains. I got to put it somewhere. So you guys brought in outside equity for that. That wasn't just you and your partner.
Right.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, because that's a big boy project. I mean,
we built, it was a $62 million budget.
Okay. Yeah. And debt on that ish?
I should know this. I want to say it was 70%.
You were still in the heydays of lending. Right now, not so juicy. Okay. So you guys had to come up with, call it $18 million, $20 million on the raise side. And did you do that, or did your partners have an investor network that they? It
was both.
Okay.
Yeah. So I brought in some friends and family. I've got a handful of baseball buddies and teammates that are in it as well. And then we have one big equity partner that brought in multiple millions, but there's probably 10 or 12.
Okay.
Different investors.
Yep. Got it. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, congrats. So,
thank you.
So you guys will take advantage of the Opportunity Zone program.
Yeah.
So you got another 6-7 years ish.
I think 30. Yeah. So 7 years. Yeah. 2030 is when we got to
do something with it. So did that shift your mindset to, hey, I can be a real estate guy?
Yeah. Yeah, it did. So it's just, where do I bring value on the real estate side? So I still don't. There's so many complexities to doing stuff like this. Like I don't want to say I don't have the mental capacity to do it, but I'm still pretty wet behind the ears. And I've surrounded myself with people that are experts.
You're batting 100% right now. Sounds pretty good.
Well, if I'm playing baseball, that's great. But 2 for 3 in the business world can be life altering. 2 for 3 in the baseball world, you're going to the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame, baby.
Yeah.
So how do you think about that now? So you're 40.
Just turned 40.
Okay, so you're 40. You got another 4 years. How do you think about purpose, what you're going to do moving forward? I guess on the business side, then I'd love Alec, Matt does some pretty cool stuff for his son in travel baseball that we should probably get into as well. But how do you think about the business purpose and financial? Like, how do you think about what does this look like moving forward?
I want to hustle for 15 years.
Okay.
I want to hustle, do whatever I can to make as much money as I can in the next 15 years. I don't want to have to hustle at 60, I guess. Like what I did learn about myself when I retired from playing is I don't sit very well.
Me either.
So I need some kind of purpose outside the home. I think most men are wired.
That's how you are wired.
To have some kind of purpose outside the home. I'm just happier when I have a reason for getting up and getting out of the house. But I don't want to grind. Like what I'm doing now is I'm grinding. I have 4 different jobs if you count the baseball stuff. But I do some business development for a construction company. I'm part of the development team with what we built in Huntsville. We own another 100 acres over there. We own a 100-unit deal that we're trying to work on in Roswell, here where we live.
Where in Roswell?
Hill Street and Highway 9, right by City Hall.
Oh, yeah. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So
you're putting apartments over there, you say?
It'll be 89 apartments, 6 townhomes, and about 80,000 square feet of commercial space.
Yeah.
It'll be good. Once we get it going, it'll be good.
Yeah, let me know where I can fit in.
Okay. I'd love to. Love to have that conversation.
Yes, sir.
It'll be a great project once we get it going. The political landscape in Roswell has been tough to navigate, but we're in a good spot right now, I think. Knocking on wood. So we'll see if we can get that going.
Just a quick aside, and editors can take this out. Do you talk with Jim Van Epps?
Yeah, I know Jim really well.
Okay.
So Jim's in Huntsville with us. He was also in the medical office building with me.
Okay. He's like the godfather of Roswell. Just want to make sure. I'm pretty sure you knew him, but just
he'll
in case.
Get in over there. So, and then I started a travel baseball organization. Well, I do the color commentating for the Pirates.
Yeah.
So that's 3 jobs. Business development for a construction group, CA South, the development stuff, and then color commentating for Pittsburgh. So in the summertime, like I'm running everywhere. In the fall and winter, baseball is not going on. I've got a little bit of free time. And then I started a travel baseball team to just try and have some oversight with what my son does.
True.
We went to the city of Roswell last year and asked them if we could bring 3 teams over and partner with the city. They said, yeah, we'd love to do that, but you got to have a tryout. So I had 3 teams that I was bringing. 2 teams ended up not staying with us. So I had just my son's team that ended up staying with us, and we had to have a tryout. We had 360 kids show up. So we have 11 teams, which is, thank God I've got some good people around me because I'm not the most organized person that can kind of handle a lot of that stuff.
I'm coaching my son's football team like that. And to your point, is trying to I might actually try to buy this league that's already going. And like you said, kind of have that host of tryouts because it's a great sport. Like baseball, I played it growing up as well. And even when I talked to Brian at one time, when we played golf, where he was talking about how the baseball thing, he was like, man, this is like one of the greatest sports for kids not to be able to go and play. I agree. It's like at that younger age, it's slow for them and all that stuff like that. But too, being around the right people, being coached by some of the right people is a big part of that too.
It's perspective too. And you see this, I'm sure, but like with what we've done, our perspective is so much different.
Oh yeah.
Like I have 0 expectation of my son playing in the big leagues. I know how hard it is.
It's hard.
You probably have 0 expectation of your son playing in college or the NFL. Like, and at the end of the day, the reality is, the truth is, if they're gonna go, it's the work they're gonna put in.
Exactly
not the
right.
work I'm putting in for them or you're putting in for them. Like,
exactly right.
They have to want it. So,
like you literally gotta want it. It's just with anything else you do in life, not even necessarily just sports. Like if it's if it's important to you, and make time for it, and get it done at the end of the day. And that's, kind of all you can try to do for your kid is, show them if you work hard and you really love this, you can go and make that or make it to the big leagues or whatever. Yeah. But I definitely
they gotta want it.
Yeah, you gotta want it.
What are you gonna do when nobody else is watching?
Exactly right.
You gotta get the God-given piece first, but there's a lot of kids with talent.
Yeah.
And the difference is gonna be who's going to put the work in.
Yeah. One of my favorite sayings in baseball was hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah, that's not a bad one either. One of my buddy's sons played at TCU stud, just a stud. And he got a girlfriend his freshman year, and he was batting cleanup at TCU as a freshman. Like, he just transferred. Some other things took priority, and you know what his dad was saying to him was like, "Look, man, there's a kid in the Dominican Republic right now who is mashing 24 hours a day.
They're doing this all day.
Only shot. He's like, and look, he's like, you can walk away. He's like, do you have a shot? Hell yeah, you do. But that's a you decision. Like, and that's the piece that I think, and going back to the finance and business side of it, you know, we talk to a lot of guys where Alec always asks the question, like, is there time in your day to get business savvy? And, you know, most of the guys, Alec, I think you agree, say, hell yeah, you can make time for anything. And for the financial wellness and savviness while guys are in the league and even after, you got to want it. It's not going to magically happen. And that's the piece that I think most people miss.
It's hard when you're playing, though, because you're so focused on doing your job, you know, and then by the time if I'm putting the work in that I need to put in to be successful on the field, by the time I get home or get to the hotel, I'm mentally and physically drained.
But you got an off season too.
You do have an off season, and that's a great point. And that's probably the biggest thing I would change is I would have spent more time getting to know my financial plan. I guess in the off season, during the season, I don't want to talk about it. But I met with my financial. That's the
same
guy.
thing you say, Alec, right? Like during the season, it's like play football.
You focus on that one thing, because I mean, you play with the best of the best. Like, it's somebody they looking to replace you every single time.
That's right.
You know, every day, right? So,
that's right. 50 new guys coming in every year.
Coming in like it's a revolving door. Like
50 new guys who are cheaper. 50 new guys who are cheaper than you. So Matt, I guess wrapping this up, what would you tell 21-year-old you, 22-year-old you? I mean, think of you coming out and the wisdom that you have now. And what I would have taken as a lesson is the networking piece you can do when you're playing.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Okay. Sorry.
I would have focused more on the networking piece of it. And I think it'd be hard to go back and do it because it's perspective, right? I'd tell myself to have the perspective you have at 40. Well, if I'm 22, how do I have that? But the big takeaways are like people generally want to help. So ask. And I was afraid to do that. Believe it or not, I'm naturally a shy person. I kind of gained that confidence and things like that at about my junior year of high school, about 17, 18 years old, before I really started to learn how to come out of my shell. But I was painfully shy as a kid. Didn't want to ask for help with anything. Didn't want to meet new people. Didn't like. And I think when I got into pro ball, like new situations, I talk about Trent Jewett, the manager coming in AAA and telling me I was going to the big leagues. I was scared to death. Like I didn't want to have a conversation with him. He's a AAA manager. I've been in rookie ball and A ball my whole life to this point. Like I was intimidated. No, it doesn't matter if you're Elon Musk or the president of the United States or anybody. You're a person. We're just people. Having that perspective and kind of keeping that in check, like people are just people. And I would have spent more time trying to pick the brains of people that were successful outside of my realm. So the people that are successful now that I'm around, the Mac Reeses, the Jim Myers, the Bo Terrells, and the medical office and the development stuff, like their story. And now at this stage of my life, I'm genuinely interested in people's story. Like I'm interested in your story. You're an athlete. Like I can relate to your story a lot. I'm curious about it, but the nuts and bolts of athletics, like I know why you were successful. You probably outworked most people. You know, I was successful because I had talent and I outworked most people. How are you successful? Why were you successful?
It's the same story.
I would argue it'd be the same.
It's the same story.
The same way.
But how do you work hard? Like maybe that's what I would ask is the accountant. Like how do you work hard at accounting? The real estate guy. How do you work hard at real estate? So baseball's cut and dry. Football's cut and dry. Like get in the weight room, run more, run harder, swing more, throw more, hit more, stuff like that. How do you work hard at real estate?
Put in those hours.
I mean, look, I don't think it's any different. You talk about asking for help, right? There are people who've already done it.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge believer in don't recreate the wheel, copy it.
Yeah.
The smartest guys on the planet are the guys who look at somebody doing something, they're like, I can do that.
Yeah.
And maybe they make little tweaks, but most stuff, I'm definitely not the smartest guy in the real estate room, right?
Yeah.
And so I think most stuff is just looking at other models and saying, like, how do we apply that to us? Mm-hmm. And then my opinion of almost everything in life is, people say give maximum effort. Well, you can't give maximum effort every day for 40 years. It doesn't work that way. Yeah. But you can give 80% effort every day.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like show up a little bit. And in 20 years, that little bit is a lot. And that can be money. It could be fitness. It could be sports, right? You start at 10 and put 10 years in a little bit every day, right? I love this analogy. One of my buddy's kids was a stud soccer player. And when he was like 6, I was like, hey, how was the game this weekend? He's like, good. I was like, his name was Mac. I was like, how'd Mac do? He's like, he scored 7 goals. I was like, 7 goals? I was like, how do you do that? He's like, well, we practice an extra 5 minutes every day. He's like, for every week, my kid's got 35 more minutes of practice. And for every year, right, you multiply 35 times 52, he's got another 1,500 minutes than every other kid out there. Because most kids will go to practice, they'll go out and play a game on the weekend. He's like, they're not doing hours every night. Mm-hmm. But then what happened with that kid is as he got older, he just kept doing it, right? Mm-hmm. And he had hundreds of hours more practice than everybody else.
That's what I tell kids when I give lessons. Do 30 of these a day.
Yeah.
Break it into groups. Do 10 in the morning, 10 in the afternoon, 10 at night. Like it takes you 20 seconds.
Yep.
But that's 30 reps a day. You compound that over a week, over a month, over a year. Now those movement patterns are...
You don't even think about it.
No, that's right.
And financial is no different.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Spend 10 minutes. Mm-hmm. You spend 10 minutes. And this is where I would push back on you guys as athletes. I was not a professional athlete. I understand the grind. But 10 minutes a day, that's 70 minutes a week. You read. Yeah. It's a podcast. It's something where you're saying, how am I getting better? And at the end of the year, you got an extra couple thousand minutes than everybody else.
Yeah.
And I think
too, you got to be able to have the patience to be like, I'm not going to learn this all in one day. Yeah. Like a lot of people, they get bored or they get frustrated with just not knowing exactly everything they needed to know in that instant, in that moment. But as we just sit here and said, like, you got to keep putting in that time, that overtime. Like, it'll click at some point, if you truly believe that's something that you want to do.
You forget that. The athletes that play at the level we play, you forget that you were not good at one. You started somewhere.
Yep.
You still probably know people that were better than you to this day.
High school kids.
Like, that's what I'm saying. It's like, know them to this day that they were better than you, but it drove you. Yeah, it drove you to push every day. So,
I think it's a big piece of that, too, is setting a goal, right? And like you said, I'm not going to get it today, but in the next 5 years, right, or whatever, I want to retire from my job. Okay. Or in your mind, I want to work for 15 years. Well, that's a long time. You can do a lot of 10-minute reps in 15 years.
Yeah.
And if you can keep that piece in mind, that's the difference between people who win and don't, is they got a long-term goal and they'll work every day towards it. And I'll speak from the fitness industry, right? My wife owns a gym. The fitness industry is I don't know the exact number, but tens or hundreds of billions of dollars a year. It's not hard to stay in shape, right? Simple, not easy. You just go work out and consume less calories than you eat. But people really struggle with that. People can't save for retirement. It's not hard. You save a little bit for a long time. But Alec, to your point, it's really hard to look 30 years down the road and be like, I'm saving for that.
Yeah.
I think that's the big difference. The people who can make sacrifices now for the long term. Athletes, financial guys, real estate guys.
Anybody.
Yeah. I'll leave you one example because I just talked to the guy. So he's a developer in Tennessee. He'll be a billionaire in the next 5 years. Ish. As long as his net worth kind of continues to compound at the rate he's at. And what he will tell you is he will tell you what he finished in his high school class, which was on the lower end of that spectrum. Right? He's not the smartest guy in the room, but it was every day. He was a teacher for 10 years, and then he just bought his first house, and then he built his first house, and he just kept a little step every time. And his big aha for him was hiring great people. Like, he got to a point, like you said, like, I don't know everything. So we hired a guy. He's like, well, you know it better than I do. Come do it. And then that guy was like, well, we need to hire this guy. And that's what exploded wealth. And I think, for all of us, that's the lesson.
Surround yourself with good people.
Most definitely.
Without a doubt.
Matt, we appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Coming on.
Yeah,
it was
nice to meet you.
You too as well. Hopefully we'll have you back on again, talking more, inspiring, others to, continue to grow and do what they need to do to build that wealth and that financial freedom as we all try to seek,
Yeah. One foot in front of the other.
Hey,
Matt, where can people find you?
Yes, sir.
At MattCaps55 on Twitter.
Okay. X. It's not Twitter anymore.
X, I'm sorry. I don't remember my handle on Instagram. I'm on Instagram, though. I should remember it. It might be at MattCaps55. I wore 55. If you could.
Okay.
We'll have people look it up.
Yeah.
They'll find you.
Yeah. Perfect.
Well, if anybody wants to put another deal in front of you, they got a soybean field that they need some developing on.
Do it.
Send Matt a DM. Let's get it moving.
Yep,
Yes,
that'd
sir.
be awesome.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Beyond the Game. Please like, subscribe, comment on your favorite platform. It helps others find the show.
Special shout out to Open Heart Media, who has helped produce Beyond the Game. Check them out at openheartmediaco.com.